Undertale is an indie RPG game developed by Toby Fox and released for PC in 2015. The game became beloved by both critics and quickly garnered an ardent fan base. My Undertale story begins about a year ago. As junior year was ending, I had been writing daily reviews for a friend's Discord server, and one of the major suggestions was Undertale. Unfortunately, I had never actually bought or played the game. I knew it was, of course, and had seen playthroughs on YouTube, but had never purchased the game myself. Unfettered, a friend bought it on Steam and gave it to me as a gift. I accepted the gift with the promise to play it and review it. It was at that point, on May 25th, 2019, that I played and uploaded my first Undertale video. Unfortunately, during the summer, I stopped doing the daily reviews, and Undertale fell by the wayside as well. However, I would always come back to it, and more than a year later, I am proud to announce that I have completed the game for the first, and technically second, time. With that in mind, I present to you all not only a review, but a little bit of an analysis of the game. I'm also reusing the name Michael's Minty Media, because it's good. Fight me. We'll start with the easiest thing, the music. The music is the easiest thing to talk about, not because it's bad or poor, but rather because there is little nuance. The music is just good. There's no subversion, no tricks, no hidden lore. The songs are some of the best instrumental video game music to come out in the last decade, in my opinion. All the characters and places have themes, and the themes get amazingly remixed throughout the game and return throughout the game. There's nothing cooler than hearing the same great song, but different and somehow better in a different context. His music is some of the best through and through. I mean, just listen at the final fight rock showdown. And the Undyne boss music. And the Sands fight. The music is just top notch, through and through. The next thing I'm going to talk about is gameplay. It can be difficult to discuss gameplay as it's semi-intertwined with the characters and the story. For this section, I will be avoiding discussing any of the characters or storyline. I'm going to discuss those later, and instead focusing on the pure game mechanics. Basically, it's an RPG. The main difference is that the fights don't play out exactly how you might expect them. Instead, you basically switch between three different types of mini games, which all have different styles. The first is the when the player attacks, which is basically just a timed, like slot machine type thing. Hit the button at the correct time, type deal. The next is the enemy attack, which is a bullet hell type style, bullet dodge thing. Objects will come at the player's heart, which you move around to avoid all their objects to avoid getting hurt. Definitely the coolest thing about this gameplay mechanic is the boss fights, because they changed the whole style of this minigame. One turns it into a rhythm timing game, one into 2D platformer style with gravity, the other one into a like top-down shooter where you can shoot the objects that are coming at you. This is very innovative in my opinion, and I mean, like, it just keeps the game interesting. Pretty much all the different versions of this minigame are interesting. The final minigame is the alternate way to defeat the monster. Obviously, you can just kill it using the player attacks, but you can also choose to look at your other options and basically figure out how to talk the monster down, figure out, like, each of the monsters have a different thing, and if you do it, then you can just say, we're not going to fight anymore. It's the prime feature of the game, and what separates it from other RPGs. It turns each fight into a text-based fight, where you kind of have to figure out what to do to win, like old text adventure RPGs. This feature turns the game from a kind of a little innovative RPG into something that, like, no one had ever done this before. It turns it into a cultural, like, the big phenomenon that it became. That and the characters and the writing, which I'll get to next. The characters in this game are amazing. They're perhaps the single reason why this game is so great. Each of the characters is well developed, interesting, and relatable. Now, admittedly, one of the ways Toby Fox creates such relatable characters is by relying a bit on sort of gamer stereotypes. However, he really only uses this as a jumping off point to introduce the character. After that, the character sort of takes on a life of their own as like you hear what the character says and how they feel and stuff. So they aren't, and in the end, they aren't stereotypical at all. Um, the characters also feed directly into the story, and since many of them are boss fights, into the gameplay as well. They're so well developed in the game that I would say they are the heart of the game. People get emotional about these characters, and for good reason. They're well done. They feel real. They don't feel boring, stereotypical, or even abrasive. They're not made to be annoying. Without the characters, this game would basically be empty. It wouldn't be. Other RPGs can get away with having crappy characters, but this game it's on the backs of the characters. Now the characters do greatly enhance the story and the feel of the game, but I put them in their own category because I have a little bit of problems with the story that don't involve the characters, and I don't want people to think I dislike the characters. I don't. These characters are some of the best in video games. The problems I have with the story are despite the characters, not at all because of them. Each of them makes the story way better. Well, then what problems do I have with the story? Well, personally, I just think it's a little convoluted. This is due to the fact this is due to the fact that the story is not told correctly the first time, and you have to put all the pieces together sort of after the fact. This is completely intentional. Toby Fox wanted to sort of subvert the audience expectations of the sort of traditional RPG story, which he did. The unfortunate result is that you can't really 100% understand the story, more like 99 or 95% understand. It's not inherently a bad thing, but it does leave people with lots of questions after you finish the game, which is why there's a lot of theories out there about the stuff that happens in the game. This is coupled with a near complete lack of world building. The world that the humans and the monsters live in is pretty much not actually explored in any way that makes sense. The humans who locked up all the monsters are never mentioned, never explored at all. We have no ideas how monsters actually work. For example, there are ghost and skeleton monsters, but monsters can die, including the ghost and skeleton monsters. Asgore and Goat Mom were both around when they got locked up, but nobody else mentions being there. How long have they been locked up? 20 years? 100? 1,000? Several thousand? This would be extremely relevant to how the world works, in my opinion, but we aren't shown any of that. This leads to sort of a story where it's hard to fill in any gaps of stuff you don't know with assumptions. You can't really assume anything because you don't know how their world works. There's also the whole name thing. At the end of the game, you find out you aren't playing your named character, but instead you're playing a character named Frisk, while the pacifists run, which leads to a whole host of questions about like who's who, basically, like because all the characters have the same sprite, and who did what when, all of which are hard to answer because the game's not designed to give you a solid answer, to protect the sort of mystery when you go through it. All in all, however, the main storyline is actually pretty solid. It's more background stuff that you don't think about until after you finish the game, which of course is the intent of Toby Fox. That being, the story does exactly what the creator intended. It's not. It tells you one thing, and then you get through it, and you learn more things, and it changes the way you look at what you saw before. It's just not what I like. I prefer my stories to have a little bit more context and world building. You can still do that. It's just the way he did it. I personally don't like it it's good, but I don't think it's perfect. I think there's some issues with it. In conclusion, Undertale is a great game. It's one of those games that will probably never be a waste of your time or money. I wouldn't call it perfect, but it's pretty darn close if I'm being honest. I have some problems with the lore, but it does exactly what the creator intended. The music is great, the gameplay is interesting, and the characters are amazing. tells a unique story in a way that is unexpected and keeps the player on their toes. It has a surprising amount of backstory, and I will probably need to look up some YouTube videos in the future to find out exactly everything that is in the lore. I give this game a 0.987 out of 1. It's a good game. So did you like the video? I spent a lot of time on it, and I wrote the script, edited, and of course recorded this, so I hope you liked it. I haven't done one of these types of videos ever. If it does well, I'll be doing more like this for some other games, hopefully. Jedi Fallen Order comes to mind, as well as Baldur's Gate and Portal, and obviously I could play Deltarune. I need to decide what game I'm playing next. All that stuff. So, stay tuned. This is not anywhere close to the end. Hopefully I'll do another one of these analysis videos soon.